Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. You abandoned Mom over your own insecurity, my daughter said, loud enough that the clinking of forks and wine glasses stopped cold. You're destroying this family because you can't handle that she made one mistake over 20 years ago. Grow up. She was standing, arms crossed, that condescending smirk on her face. My smirk, ironically, while my sister-in-law choked on her Pinot Grigio, and the turkey carved 15 minutes ago began to cool. The entire dining room, packed with relatives I'd tolerated for years, went dead silent. The mashed potatoes were still steaming. My brother froze mid-bite, looking like he wanted to disappear into the stuffing. I didn't shout. I didn't throw the glass of bourbon I was holding. I didn't say a word. I just smiled. The kind of smile that makes people deeply uncomfortable when they realize you know something they don't. Then I reached under my chair, pulled out the unmarked envelope I'd taped there before dinner, and slid it across the polished oak table. 2 fingers, gentle pressure, like I was sliding a contract across a boardroom table. It stopped right in front of Claire. She blinked, confused at first. Then the edges of her mouth twitched downward. She opened the envelope with a performative huff, like she expected to find some kind of half-baked emotional letter about how hurt I was. Some desperate plea for understanding. She was wrong. She stared at the first page, the DNA report, black text, white paper, official laboratory seal. Neatly highlighted in yellow was the phrase, probability of paternity, 0%. Then she flipped to the second item, a photograph of a man she'd never met. Under the photo, an address in Dallas, Texas. A handwritten note was paper-clipped to the corner, your biological father. His name is Jeremy Sutton. He knows you exist. He doesn't know what you've become. Her hand shook. Not dramatically, just a slight tremble, enough for me to notice and enough for her to realize I noticed. She looked up, and her voice cracked for the first time in years. What is this? I sipped my bourbon. The truth, I said. 48 hours. Pack your things. I didn't look at my wife. I didn't need to. I could feel her tense across the table like a deer that just heard the rifle cock. Her face flushed red, not from embarrassment, but from calculation. The silence was so thick even the dog stopped begging for scraps. My brother muttered, "What the hell is going on?" My elderly mother tried to speak, stopped, tried again. Nothing came out. And me? I just stood, adjusted my blazer, and said it again, this time louder for the whole table. 48 hours. Pack your things. I didn't wait for a response. I walked out the front door into the cold November air, the smell of roasted turkey fading behind me. Let them sit in that. Let them marinate in it. Because here's what none of them knew. Not Claire, not Diane, not the army of performative relatives crowding my dining room. I didn't come to Thanksgiving to make peace. I came to bury the illusion. It was 11:47 at night when my phone buzzed. One of those pathetic vibrations you ignore the first time because you're half asleep and assume it's spam. But then it buzzed again. And again. Persistent. I groaned, reached over the pile of security documentation on my nightstand, and checked the screen. Unknown number. 3 missed calls, and now a voicemail. I don't know what made me listen. Maybe it was the fact that my house had been so silent lately, like even the walls were holding their breath. Or maybe it was because something in me, something primal, knew the sound I was about to hear would change everything. I pressed play. Slurred male voice, southern accent. The kind you pick up after a few years of cheap whiskey and too many failed marriages. Scott Carlton? You don't know me. My name is Jeremy Sutton. I don't know if Diane ever told you about me, but I think it's time you knew about Claire. He paused, ice clinking in a glass on his end. She has my eyes, man. I saw her picture on your wife's Facebook page. Look at her birthday. February 14th, 2003. Count backward 9 months. May 2002. Remember where you were? I remember where I was. I was with your wife. In Atlanta. The Marriott on Cortlandt Street. Room 847. I don't want anything. I just thought you should know. Click. I sat up in bed, suddenly hyper-aware of every shadow in the room. The digital clock's blue glow seemed to burn my retinas. I replayed the voicemail 3 times. I knew those dates. I knew them. May 2002. I was in San Francisco for 3 weeks. Cybersecurity conference. I remembered because I'd missed our anniversary. Diane said she understood. Said she was going to visit her college roommate in Georgia. I got up, walked to my office, turned on the light. My old work calendar was archived on an external drive. I pulled it up. There it was. San Francisco, May 15th through May 31st, 2002. I opened Facebook on my phone, scrolled through Diane's public photos, found Claire's 21st birthday post from last February, zoomed in on her face. Golden brown eyes. Specific shade. Like burned amber. Not mine. Not Diane's either. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. I didn't toss or turn either. I just lay there, motionless, thinking, rewinding 21 years of parenting and wondering what parts of it were real. I remembered Claire's first word, Dada. I remembered teaching her to ride a bike. I remembered the time she broke her wrist climbing the neighbor's tree and I sat in the ER for 7 hours holding her other hand. What if none of it mattered? What if I was just the idiot who paid for someone else's screw-up? The next morning, I didn't confront anyone. I didn't start screaming accusations. I didn't even call Jeremy back right away. That would have been too easy, too messy. Instead, I bought a DNA test online. 2-day shipping. $299. I didn't tell Diane. I didn't even hint. I just waited for Claire to come over for her weekly Sunday lunch like nothing was wrong. She tossed her coat on the chair, complained about her journalism ethics professor, drank 2 glasses of water. I slipped her glass into a sterile evidence bag 10 minutes after she left. Told myself I was being paranoid, that I'd open the results and feel like a fool for doubting. That night, standing in my kitchen holding that tiny bag with her water glass and 21 years worth of doubt, I realized something chilling. I wasn't hoping the test would clear my conscience. I was afraid it would confirm what I already knew. The email came at 11:23 in the morning on a Thursday. Subject line, your DNA results are ready. I was sitting in my office, staring at a spreadsheet that might as well have been written in ancient Greek. I hadn't been able to focus for days. Every task I touched dissolved into white noise. The only browser tab that mattered was the one with the lab's tracking number, which I'd refreshed so often the page started auto-loading before I finished typing. I opened the message. Heart not racing, not trembling, not even braced. I already knew. The PDF loaded slowly. My mouse hovered. 1 click. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stared at it. Not with shock, not even with anger. Just a dull, hollow awareness. Like staring at a gun that already went off. The bullet long gone. The damage already done. And then I laughed. I laughed so loud the guy in the office next to mine knocked on the wall. Hey, you okay in there? What do you say to that? Yeah, man. Just found out my daughter's not mine. You know, Thursday stuff. The laughter wouldn't stop. It crawled up from somewhere deep in my gut and came out like dry heaving. I bent forward, clutching my stomach, choking on it. The kind of laughter you only ever hear in war movies where the guy just lost his entire squad and laughs because it's the only thing left between him and total madness. I slammed the laptop shut, wiped my eyes, and sat there staring at the beige wall in front of me like it held answers. 21 years. 21 years of recitals, parent-teacher nights, scraped knees, sleepovers, late-night talks, graduation parties. 21 years of birthdays I planned, doctor appointments I paid for, fears I calmed. All of it, retroactively, what? A performance? Was I just the fill-in? The accidental father? The oblivious chump standing in for some ghost, named Jeremy, who apparently had her eyes? I didn't go home that night. I got in my car and just drove. Nowhere in particular. Ended up parked at Virginia Beach, 2.5 hours away. I sat there for hours, staring at the ocean, watching the daylight fade across the water. I didn't cry. That was the strangest part. No tears. Not one. Just that sick laugh I kept replaying in my head. And I didn't tell Diane. Not that night. Not the next. Because how do you confront someone who built your whole life out of a lie? How do you walk into your own home, look the woman you thought you knew in the eyes, and say, hey, remember that little girl you swore was mine? Yeah, turns out she's not. So I said nothing. I played my part. We had dinner. We watched our stupid shows. She talked about the neighbors like everything was normal. I nodded. I smiled. I asked questions. I even did the dishes. Because when you find out your whole reality is a forgery, you don't flip the table. You start preparing the fire. The thing about liars is they get lazy. Especially the ones who think they're smarter than you. They start believing in their own illusion. Their own charm. Their ability to gaslight you into oblivion with a smile and a hand on your arm. So when I started digging, It wasn't because I hoped to find some explanation. I wasn't praying for a loophole. I was hunting, and I knew the scent would lead me somewhere ugly. I'm an IT security consultant. I've spent 25 years finding vulnerabilities in systems that everyone swore were airtight. I know how to trace digital footprints. I know how to recover deleted files. I know how to find patterns. I started with our old credit card statements. I keep everything. Tax records going back 25 years. It's a professional habit. When you work in security, you document everything. I pulled up May 2002. There it was. Atlanta Marriott, Cortlandt Street. Charged to our joint visa. 3 nights. May 18th through May 21st. I was in San Francisco. She told me she was visiting Kelly, her college roommate, in Athens, Georgia. I pulled up June 2001. Boston Harbor Hotel. 4 nights. I was in Baltimore for a client presentation. October 2003. Bellagio, Las Vegas. 2 nights. I was in Minneapolis. July 2004. Fontainebleau, Miami. 3 nights. I was in Philadelphia. Every single trip coincided with my work travel. Every single charge on our joint account. She wasn't even trying to hide it. She just assumed I'd never look. I sat back in my chair, the spreadsheet glowing on my screen. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't a drunken regret. This was systematic. Calculated. A pattern. She'd been doing this for years. I spent 3 days analyzing data, finding patterns, building a timeline. I pulled up our old email accounts, recovered deleted messages from backup drives, found gaps in Diane's communication during May 2002. Entire weeks where she'd send brief, perfunctory responses while I was on the road. Miss you. Work is fine. Can't wait till you're home. But her social media told a different story. Check-ins at restaurants in Atlanta. Photos with friends she'd never mentioned. I cross-referenced everything. Built a spreadsheet. Color-coded by location and date. The pattern was undeniable. Every time I left town for more than 3 days, she had an emergency or a girl's trip. Boston, 2001. Las Vegas, 2003. Miami, 2004. Each one charged to our joint account. Each one while I was in a different city, working 70-hour weeks to provide for our family. For a family that apparently wasn't mine. I hired a private investigator. Former D.C. cop named Bill Cortez. Works out of a dingy office in Arlington. I gave him everything. The spreadsheet, the statements, Jeremy's name. Bill came back 3 days later with a folder thick enough to be a novel. Jeremy Sutton, 48 years old. Commercial pilot based in Dallas. Flies international routes. Divorced. Has a son, Noah, 19 years old, at University of Texas. Bill traced the affair to September 2001. Diane met Jeremy at a hotel bar in Miami during a real estate conference. They started coordinating. Every time I traveled, Diane would check Jeremy's flight schedule. He'd arrange layovers. If he had 2 days in Atlanta, she'd book a last-minute trip. It went on for 3 years. Systematic. Organized. The affair ended around 2005. Right when I stopped traveling, Jeremy moved to Dallas permanently. They cut contact. She didn't need him anymore. She had me. The dependable husband. The steady paycheck. The father figure for a daughter who wasn't mine. I sat in my car, reading the report. The winter sun was setting. My hands didn't shake. I just felt cold. She'd orchestrated an entire double life. Budgeted it. Scheduled it. Put it on our credit card and smiled when I got home. Fine, she'd say. Quiet. Missed you. I sat in my car, reading the report, and I felt nothing. No rage. No grief. Just this cold, crystalline clarity. I'd been debugging someone else's code for 21 years. I contacted Jeremy through a throwaway email account. Simple message. This is Scott Carlton. We need to talk. He responded within an hour. I know who you are. I'm sorry. I didn't know about Claire until recently. We exchanged emails over the next week. He was straightforward. Apologetic, but not groveling. He explained he'd run into one of Diane's old co-workers at an airport. The woman mentioned Diane had a daughter. He looked Diane up on Facebook. Saw Claire's picture. Recognized his own face staring back at him. I didn't know she was pregnant, he wrote. Diane cut contact after the affair ended. I assumed we were both moving on. I had no idea there was a kid. I believed him. Not because I'm naive, but because his story made sense. And more importantly, he had nothing to gain by lying to me now. I asked if he wanted to meet Claire. He said yes, but he wanted to meet me first. We both got played, he wrote. I think we both deserve to look each other in the eye. I agreed. But not yet. First, I had other business to handle. I walked into the law offices of Melissa Park on a Wednesday afternoon in mid-November. Sleek glass building in downtown D.C., 20th floor, panoramic view of the Capitol. Expensive, but worth it. Her assistant showed me to a corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern furniture. Melissa stood when I entered. Late 40s, sharp suit, firm handshake. Mr. Brennan, have a seat. I sat across from her desk, laid out everything methodically. DNA test, credit card statements, private investigator's report, timeline of the affair, photos of Jeremy, email correspondence. She read through it all, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When she finished, she looked up at me with something that might have been respect. This is one of the most documented cases I've seen, she said. I work in IT security, I said. I document everything. She smiled slightly. That's going to work in your favor. Maryland recognizes adultery as grounds for divorce. The DNA evidence establishes fraud and material misrepresentation. We can push for a favorable asset split and no alimony. What about Claire? Melissa leaned back. She's 21, legally an adult. You have no obligation to support her. In fact, given the fraud, you could make an argument for retroactive child support reimbursement. That's tens of thousands of dollars over 2 decades. I shook my head. I don't want that. I don't want anything from her. I just want out. Are you sure? You have a strong case. I'm sure. I raised her for 21 years. That's on me. I'm not going to bankrupt the kid because her mother's a liar. Melissa nodded, made another note. Admirable. Though I should tell you, the court won't look favorably on your wife. Adultery, fraud, misrepresentation of paternity. She's going to have a hard time. Good. When do you want to file? After Thanksgiving. She raised an eyebrow. That's 10 days away. Why wait? Because I want to do this right. I want to tell them face to face. All of them. That's unusual. Most clients want to avoid confrontation. I met her eyes. I've spent 21 years being the dependable one. The nice one. The one who doesn't make waves. I'm done with that. I want them to see exactly what they destroyed. I want them to sit with it. Melissa studied me for a moment. Then she nodded. Okay. But I'm drafting everything now. The day after Thanksgiving, we file. I'll need you to sign some preliminary documents today. That's fine. She pulled out a stack of papers. Explained each one. Asset freeze authorization. Divorce petition. Financial disclosure forms. I signed everything. One more thing, she said. I'm going to recommend we freeze the joint accounts pending investigation. It's legal in cases of suspected financial fraud. Prevents her from moving assets around before the settlement. Do it. It's going to make her angry. She's going to be angry anyway. Melissa allowed herself a small smile. Fair enough. I'll have my paralegal process this today. By end of business tomorrow, she won't have access to anything joint. Credit cards, checking account, savings. You'll need to set up your own accounts immediately. Already done. She looked impressed. You really have thought this through. Like I said, I document everything. I plan for every scenario. It's what I do. We shook hands. I walked out of her office feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Not happy, not relieved, just certain I was doing the right thing. Finally, that same day, I froze our joint accounts, changed passwords on shared logins, removed Diane's access to my retirement funds, documented everything in encrypted files backed up in 3 locations. 2 days later, I moved to a hotel, extended stay place in Arlington, told Diane I needed space to think. She didn't fight it. Probably thought I'd cool off and come crawling back. She had no idea. Diane had no idea. That was the beautiful part. She planned Thanksgiving dinner like she always did. Sent out the invitations 3 weeks early. Discussed the menu over breakfast. Debated whether to serve pumpkin pie or pecan pie or both. Asked me to pick up the 20-pound turkey from the specialty butcher in Bethesda. I agreed to everything. Helped with shopping. Helped with prep work. Smiled and nodded. On Tuesday before Thanksgiving, she was making her famous cranberry sauce. Apron on, hair tied back, humming along to some song on the radio. I'm so glad we're hosting this year, she said, stirring the pot. Family is everything. I feel like we've been disconnected lately, you know? This will be good for us. Absolutely, I said, chopping celery for the stuffing. Transparency and honesty are the foundation of any family. She glanced at me, smiled. Exactly. I'm glad you're seeing it that way. She didn't even register the irony. Didn't hear the edge in my voice. She was so convinced of her own performance, so secure in the lie, that she couldn't imagine I knew. That's what 23 years of successful deception does. It makes you careless. The weekend before Thanksgiving, Claire came home from UVA for the break. She burst through the door Friday evening, dragging a suitcase and a backpack full of laundry. "I'm home," she called out. Diane rushed to hug her. They chatted about classes, roommates, some guy Claire was maybe interested in. I was back at the house for the weekend to keep up appearances. Watched from the kitchen, dish towel in hand. That night, after dinner, Claire cornered me. I was loading the dishwasher. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Dad, I need to ask you something." I didn't look up, just kept loading plates. "What's that? What's going on with you and Mom? What did she tell you?" Claire sighed. "That you were being paranoid and controlling. That you moved out over nothing. That she's trying to fix things, but you won't let her." I placed the last dish in the rack, closed the dishwasher, turned to face her. "Is that all she said?" "Pretty much. She said you were going through something. That you needed to get over yourself." Claire's voice had that edge to it. That judgment. "I don't get it, Dad. You're staying at some hotel in Arlington. You barely come home. Marriage is about forgiveness. People make mistakes. You can't just throw away 20+ years because of some argument." I dried my hands on the towel, looked at her, really looked at her. Those golden brown eyes. Not mine, not Diane's. Jeremy's. How had I never seen it before? "You're right," I said quietly. "Some things require forgiveness. Other things require truth." She frowned. "What does that mean?" "You'll understand soon enough." "Dad, you're being cryptic. Just tell me what's going on." I folded the towel, set it on the counter. "Claire, have you ever considered that maybe your mother isn't telling you the whole story?" "What are you talking about? Has she ever lied to you? About anything?" Claire's face flushed. "Everyone lies about little things. That doesn't mean..." "I'm not talking about little things. I'm talking about big things. Life-changing things." She wouldn't do that. I nodded slowly. Okay. That's it. Just okay? What do you want me to say, Claire? You've already decided I'm the bad guy. You've already chosen her version of reality. Nothing I say right now is going to change that. Because you're not saying anything. You're just being vague and weird. You'll get answers soon. I promise you that. But I want everyone to hear them at the same time. I'm tired of repeating myself. I'm tired of being misunderstood. She threw her hands up. "You're impossible." She stormed upstairs. I heard her door slam. Diane came into the kitchen a few minutes later. "What was that about?" "She wanted to know what's going on between us." "What did you tell her?" "That she'll find out soon enough." Diane's expression flickered. Just for a second. Uncertainty. Fear. Then it smoothed back into that confident mask. "Scott, if you're planning to make a scene at Thanksgiving..." "I'm not planning anything," I said. "I'm just going to tell the truth. Isn't that what families do? Share the truth?" She studied me. I could see her trying to figure out what I knew. How much I knew. Whether I was bluffing. "We should present a united front," she said finally. "For Claire's sake. For the family's sake." United front. Right. Like we've been doing for 23 years. What's that supposed to mean? I smiled. Picked up my jacket. "I'm going for a walk. I'll be back later." I left her standing in the kitchen, confusion and calculation warring on her face. 3 more days. That's all I had to wait. 3 more days until I burned it all down. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and gray. Perfect weather for a funeral. Guests started arriving at 2. My brother Thomas and his wife Patricia. Diane's sister Linda with her husband George and their 2 teenagers. My elderly mother, Helen. A couple of family friends. 12 people total. I helped set the table. Carved the turkey. Poured wine. Played the perfect host. Diane was in her element. Silk blouse. Perfect makeup. Playing the gracious hostess. She gave a little speech before dinner. Thanked everyone for coming. Talked about gratitude and family and togetherness. I added grace. And for truth finally coming to light. Everyone assumed I meant something religious. They bowed their heads. Dinner started normally. Conversation flowed. Politics, football, college stories. Claire talked about her journalism classes. The irony wasn't lost on me. Then Thomas mentioned my new apartment. Linda, Diane's sister, chimed in. "I still think you two should work it out." That's when Claire stood up. Chair scraping against hardwood. The room went quiet. "I'll say what everyone's thinking," Claire said, looking directly at me. Dad, you're being selfish and immature. I set down my fork. Didn't look up. Just kept my eyes on my plate. You abandoned Mom over your own insecurity, she continued. You're destroying this family because you can't handle that she made one mistake 20 years ago. Grow up. Diane reached for Claire's arm. Claire, this isn't the time. Claire pulled away. No, he needs to hear it. Everyone here is thinking it. I looked up, smiled slowly. That smile I'd been practicing for weeks. What are you smiling about? Claire demanded. I reached under my chair, pulled out the envelope I'd taped there that morning, slid it across the table with 2 fingers. Open it, I said. Claire hesitated. Then she grabbed it, tore it open, pulled out the DNA test first. I watched her face change as she read. Confusion, disbelief, horror. She pulled out the photo of Jeremy, the address card. Her hand started shaking. What is this? She whispered. The truth, I said calmly. Your biological father lives in Dallas. His name is Jeremy Sutton. He's a commercial pilot. You have his eyes, his nose, his jawline. He knows you exist. I've been in contact with him. Diane's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattered on the floor. Red wine spread across the hardwood like blood. Everyone froze. My mother's voice, shaky. Scott, what are you saying? I'm saying Claire isn't my daughter, I said. Hasn't been for 48 hours. Legally speaking. Claire stared at the paper. This is fake. This has to be fake. It's from GeneDirect Lab, I said. Certified results. I had them run it twice. Diane stood. Scott, please, we need to discuss this privately. Like we discussed it privately for 21 years. I pulled out a second envelope from my jacket, laid out printed hotel receipts on the table. May 2002, Atlanta. October 2001, Boston. March 2003, Las Vegas. July 2004, Miami. Every single trip coincided with my work travel. Every single charge on our joint credit card. Thomas leaned back in his chair. Jesus Christ. Patricia covered her mouth. Claire looked at Diane. Mom. Diane's face was white. Claire, honey, it's not that simple. Is it true? Claire's voice cracked. Diane said nothing. Mom, is it true? Diane's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. Claire sat down hard. The chair nearly tipped. I stood, adjusted my jacket. Claire, I said, you have 48 hours to pack your belongings and leave my house. You're an adult. You can live with your mother, live with Jeremy, live in your dorm. I don't care. But you don't live under my roof anymore. You can't just kick me out. You're not my daughter. Legally, morally, biologically. You made your choice when you stood up and called me selfish. You chose her. Live with that choice. My mother found her voice. Scott, she's still a child. Mom, she's 21. She's old enough to vote, drink, and judge me publicly. She's old enough to face consequences. I looked at Diane. Divorce papers will be served Monday morning. DNA evidence is already filed with the court. Everything is documented. I walked to the closet, grabbed my coat. Thomas stood. Scott, wait. Enjoy your dinner, I said. I've lost my appetite. I walked out, closed the door behind me, got in my car, drove to a hotel bar in Georgetown and ordered bourbon. Neat. Behind me, I left them sitting in that silence. The turkey cooling on the table, the wine stain spreading. The truth finally, brutally, out in the open. Diane showed up at my hotel the next morning. Embassy Suites in Georgetown. I checked into this hotel Thursday night after leaving the Thanksgiving dinner, needing somewhere different than my usual extended stay in Arlington. Somewhere Diane wouldn't think to look first. Ordered room service. Watched the city lights from my window. Slept better than I had in months. The front desk called my room at 9:15. Mr. Carlton, there's a Diane Carlton here to see you. Tell her I'll be down in 5 minutes. I got dressed. Took my time. Brushed my teeth. Made sure I looked composed. Calm. When I stepped out of the elevator into the lobby, she was standing by the fireplace. Still in yesterday's clothes. Hair messy. Makeup smudged. She looked like she'd been crying all night. Good. She rushed over when she saw me. Scott, we need to talk. We're talking, I said. Didn't move toward the seating area. Just stood there in the middle of the lobby. Not here. Somewhere private. I'm not inviting you to my room. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Her face crumpled. Real tears this time, not the calculated ones. Scott, please. We can fix this. There's nothing to fix, I said. It was never real. That's not true. We had good years. We built a life together. You built a lie. I lived in it. I made mistakes. I was young, scared, confused. I cut her off. You were 24 when you got pregnant. You were married. You'd been having an affair for over a year. That's not confused. That's calculated. She flinched. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. You didn't mean to have an affair? Or you didn't mean to get caught? Both. Neither. I don't know. She was spiraling now, hands shaking. Scott, I loved you. I still love you. You loved the security I provided. The respectability. The cover story. You never loved me. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed. Bitter, sharp. You want to talk about fair? I spent 21 years raising another man's daughter. 21 years paying for another man's mistake. 21 years believing in something that didn't exist. And you want to talk to me about fair? People were starting to stare. Diane noticed. Lowered her voice. What about Claire? She's devastated. She'll recover. She has 2 parents. She just met one of them yesterday. She needs you. She has Jeremy. He's her father. Let him step up. Diane's expression changed. The tears stopped. Anger replacing desperation. You humiliated me in front of our entire family. I told the truth. If you're humiliated, that's on you. I'll fight the divorce. I'll take everything. The house, the retirement accounts, everything. I smiled, pulled out my phone, showed her the email from Melissa Park. Subject line, divorce filing confirmation. Try. I have 23 years of documentation. Credit card statements. Hotel receipts. Private investigator reports. DNA evidence. Emails. Text messages. Everything. Her face went white. You had me investigated? I had your story verified. Turns out it was all lies. I'll tell people you were abusive, controlling, that you drove me to it. Go ahead. I have witnesses to the contrary. I have colleagues, friends, family who'll testify to my character. What do you have? A history of deception. She tried one more tactic, softened her voice, reached for my arm. Scott, we've been together for 23 years. That has to mean something. I pulled my arm back. It meant something. Past tense. Now it's just evidence in a divorce case. You're not this cold. This isn't you. You're right. The old me would have forgiven you. Would have swallowed the pain and kept the peace. Would have played the part for another 20 years. But that Scott died when I opened that DNA report. This is who's left. I turned toward the elevator. Wait, she said. Where are we supposed to go from here? I looked back at her. You're supposed to call your lawyer. Sign the papers when they arrive. Sell the house. Move on with your life. Just like I'm doing. And Claire? That's between you and her. I'm done being her father. Jeremy can have that job. I stepped into the elevator. The doors started to close. Diane's voice, breaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The doors closed. I leaned against the wall. Let out a long breath. Sorry doesn't fix 23 years of lies. Sorry doesn't give me back the life I thought I had. Sorry is just a word people use when they finally get caught. Claire texted me 2 days later. Can we talk? I didn't respond for 6 hours. Finally replied. What is there to say? I need to understand. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Fredericksburg, halfway between D.C. and her campus. She was already there when I arrived. Hands wrapped around a mug. Eyes red. I sat down across from her. Ordered black coffee. I didn't know, she said. You have to believe I didn't know. I believe you. But you chose to defend her without asking questions. She's my mom. What was I supposed to do? Ask for the truth before attacking the only person who ever told it to you. She started crying. I didn't comfort her. Just sat there, watching. Do you hate me? She asked. No, but I don't know who you are anymore. And you clearly don't know who I am. I left cash for the coffee. Walked out. In early January, before the divorce was finalized, I met Jeremy at Founding Farmers Restaurant in D.C. I got there early. Ordered bourbon. He arrived exactly on time. Fit guy. Silver hair. Confident posture. We shook hands. It was awkward at first. Then he started talking. I want you to know I didn't pursue your wife. She pursued me. Does that matter? I asked. Probably not. But I was single, stupid, and selfish. She was married. That was on her. We talked for 2 hours. He explained he hadn't known about the pregnancy. Diane cut contact after the affair ended. He married someone else. Got divorced. Had a son in Dallas. So Claire has a half-brother, I said. Noah. 19. They've been texting. That's her journey, not mine. We parted not as friends, but not as enemies. You're handling this better than I would, he said. You didn't see what I was like in October. The divorce proceedings were clinical. Efficient. Melissa presented the evidence. DNA test. Credit card statements. Private investigators report. Timeline of deception. Diane's lawyer tried to contest it. Tried to claim I was being vindictive. But the judge looked at the evidence and made his ruling. Adultery and fraud established. Favorable asset division for me. No alimony for Diane. Legal fees paid by her. The house would be sold. Proceeds split. I kept my retirement accounts. She kept her car and personal accounts. I walked out of the courthouse on February 14th. Claire's 22nd birthday. Thomas was waiting outside. How do you feel? Lighter, I said. Not light, but lighter. My phone buzzed at midnight. Text from Claire. Divorce finalized on my birthday. Real subtle, Dad. I stared at the message. Typed and deleted 3 responses. Finally sent. It's not your birthday. It's the day I stopped being your father. Seemed appropriate. I met my half-brother. Noah. He's actually pretty cool. Good. Jeremy wants to be in my life. He's your father. That's his job. Were you ever really my dad? I stared at that question for a long time. Finally typed. I tried to be. That's all anyone can do. Do you think we'll ever talk again? Like really talk? I don't know. Maybe. When the wound isn't so fresh. How long will that take? I'll let you know when I figure it out. For months after Thanksgiving, I stood in my new apartment. Arlington, Virginia. 1 bedroom. Minimal furniture. No photos on the walls. I'd sold the house in Bethesda. Split the proceeds with Diane. She moved to a condo in Rockville. Claire stayed at school, spent breaks with Diane or visiting Jeremy in Dallas. I poured bourbon. Stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed. Text from a woman I'd met at work. Sarah, systems analyst. We'd been seeing each other casually. Still on for tomorrow? I looked at the box in the corner. Old photo albums. Every picture of Claire. I couldn't throw them away, but I couldn't keep them out either. Some moments were probably real. Her first steps. Her first laugh. But I'd never know which ones. Never know what was genuine and what was contaminated by the lie. So I closed the box. Taped it shut. Put it in the closet. Moving on isn't about forgetting. It's about deciding the past doesn't get to write the future. I finished my bourbon. Set the glass down. Turned off the light. Tomorrow, I'd meet Sarah for dinner. Next week, I'd start a new project at work. Next month, who knows? The wound was still there. Still fresh. Still raw. But I was standing. Changed. Different. The kind of different that happens when you burn down everything and start over. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. Didn't recognize the face staring back. But maybe that was okay. Maybe that was the point. I'd spent 21 years being someone I wasn't. Being the father of a daughter who wasn't mine. Being the husband of a woman who'd never really been my wife. Now I was just Scott. No prefix. No relationship. No illusion. Just a man who chose truth over comfort. Justice over peace. It didn't make me whole. It didn't heal the wound. But it let me breathe. And sometimes, that's enough. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.